It's 2010 and the pound is declining in value.
I'm very pessimistic. I'm fearful of a second dip.
Public debt is increasing.
The danger would be bankruptcy.
2.9 million people are expected to be jobless by 2011.
More businesses have gone bust in this recession than in any other dip in the economy.
Uncertainty prevails over UK's economy.
We're living with an environment where they say they will be cutting, but we just don't know the detail yet.
Every political party acknowledges that there is a challenge there, but there are differences in how to go about it.
In May, the people will choose the government they think will give them the least worst future. But do people really understand the crisis? And is media actually telling people what they need to know? Is the media portraying the true picture? Is it as serious as the media say it is? Or is everyone still suffering from the ignorance that brought the economy down in the first place?
Well, it's interesting. The media have been blamed for saying too much and being too gloomy, and then on the other hand are blamed for not telling the full picture. So it's difficult to strike a balance.
Financial journalists are as good as their sources. Our sources were the regulators, were the bankers and the banks, the traders, the hedge fund managers, all those people. None of them saw it coming. So why should we have been able to be the site that saw something that no one else picked up on?
I think it's not our job to tell people that one party's got a better set of policies than the other. I think it's our job to communicate what those policies may be, explain the differences, if there are any, and then leave voters to make up their minds.
This year will shape the future, and the main issue the next government will have to face is the economy. In particular, the huge deficit and the danger of a double-dip recession, the increase of VAT, and stepping up business investment and exports. With most countries around the world trying to export their way out of recession, who's going to buy all of those British goods?
These issues will help determine who will run the next government. Will it be the Labour with its stimulus approach or the Conservatives with its age austerity policy? But how do we decide? The gap between government spending and tax receipts is at an all-time high of £178 billion, while the national debt is heading towards an unprecedented £1.5 trillion. This combination might lead to the collapse of the UK economy.
Effectively, what we need to see is a commitment to bringing down the debt, but conditioned on where we currently are now.
Both parties strongly disagree on a solution to the problem. Should they cut expenditure and risk another recession, or should they keep on pumping money into the system and risk losing the AAA credit rating?
The Labour government are committed to their own view of how to do it and are convinced that they're doing the right thing.
The competing argument that the Conservatives have been using is that there would be an offsetting response from the private sector because the exchange rate will fall sharply and we'll see a boost to exports. That's possible, but I think it's probably unlikely.
The Conservatives' plan of action is to start repairing the public finances as soon as the election is over. But the IMF has warned that looking at the global economy, the stimulus packages should be left in place well into 2010.
The one risk is it limits the extent of the economic recovery we have in place.
Reducing the national debt in a way that doesn't put us back into a recession is not an easy task. But who has the better plan?
The public seems to be confused, skeptical, and don't know who to believe. We haven't been informed about the scale of the cuts and what to do in order to avoid disaster.
I'm not sure I completely understand what the Conservatives' policy actually is on the economy.
I do find it a lot to take in, and it's a lot complicated.
I don't give a toss about the elections left.
I'd say that the average Joe probably doesn't still understand. Let's face it, the crisis emerged from products, securitization products, monoline products, products that are very complicated, credit derivative obligations that people still don't fully understand, I don't think.
If no one understands the economic situation and how to solve it, how will people decide who to vote for?
To find out, we went to visit two average voters. Meet Daniel Mudcalf, shopkeeper and Labour voter.
I'm voting for Labour Party because I believe that Labour still have all it takes to move the country forward and bring the country out of recession. That's one of the reasons why I'm voting Labour.
Meet Toby Cowan, a business manager and Conservative voter.
I'm going to be voting for the Conservatives, not necessarily because of the plan that they have right now. To be honest, I'm quite apathetic about the plans of both parties. It's more a case of the traditional values of the Tories. And for me, the problem with our country is about a society that's gone wrong. And those traditional values, for me, are the best solution.
For most people on the street, I would say it's not losing jobs, it's being able to retain their mortgage, it's being able to get a mortgage, it's all those things which are important to normal people and to voters. And for that reason, it's a very important political issue, as well as just being an important issue just for people.
Alistair Darling argues that the Conservatives may jeopardise Britain's recovery prospects by cutting spendings, and that this may lead to a double-dip recession.
The problem is that many investors in the market have gone back to associating Labour with economic instability and inflation. Labour is not as business-friendly as it was 5 years ago. Critics of the Labour policy say that maintaining the level of expenditure rates is unsustainable, and this could cause the UK to lose its AAA credit rating. This could in turn risk the value of the pound.
In George Osborne's recent May speech, he referred to the potential loss of the AAA credit rating. The Conservatives are committed to retaining that AAA credit rating, and it's one of those things that if the AAA credit rating is lost, the UK economy is shown to be far too risky for investment. That is a great threat to the recovery in the economy.
The rating agencies have already said that they're effectively going to delay any decision on this until after the election. I would fully expect whoever forms the next government to provide a plan that is more credible than the plan we currently have. So effectively that's building in a small way on top of the existing plan to date, and that will probably fulfil the requirements of the credit agencies. I don't see the UK losing its AAA status anytime soon.
Most people understand the situation. They know the figures that are out there. They know the government's had to borrow nearly £180 billion this year. They know that that isn't sustainable in the long run, and that some sort of action needs to be taken.
What would be useful to voters would be if the parties were actually to announce the kind of spending cuts they were planning, the kind of tax increases they were planning that would rein in the deficit. It's these sorts of options that would allow the voters to decide which party would then suit what they think should be done.
This year, Britain will have a record deficit of 14% of GDP, and by March 2011, the net debt could rise to around 65%.
The one thing we need to be clear on is that all three parties are actually focused on reining in the deficits and then reducing the debt. That's a fact.
But in a way, the political debate may conceal the fact that there's not a huge difference between the parties, that Alistair Darling's plans for next year are not for great increases in public spending linked to supporting the economy. The so-called fiscal stimulus has actually effectively come to an end, and the Conservatives so far haven't yet spelled out plans for more radical cuts in public expenditure next year.
This is a political as well as an economic issue. We know from an economic point of view how to deal with excessive debts and deficits. This means possibly public spending cuts and tax increases.
But the political question is, can the government deliver that kind of pain? Both parties know that they'll have to watch out for the fragility of the economy. So it could be argued that no matter who wins the upcoming elections, the policy will be pretty much the same.